There is no scenario that I can see where global GDP will exceed the organic growth of your debt because of the interest coupon, which means the debt will continue to expand. And this is the kicker. This is before countries like the USA are running annual deficits of 8% of their GDP. Not only are they not keeping pace if everything was fixed right now, they're increasing their debt burden by 8% of GDP to fund all these programs they can't otherwise pay for. In the world today, total global financial assets are 900 trillion US dollars. 900 trillion US dollars total global financial assets, of which 400 trillion is global debt. That includes all government debt, but it also includes all corporate debt, real estate, funding, mortgages, etc. But the total of 900 trillion, 400 trillion of it is global debt. So let's play a game. What would be an average coupon we could put on that debt with a high degree of likelihood that the blended average or the weighted average was higher than that coupon? Because that's what debt is. It's a contractual obligation. You don't not pay your debt. If you do not pay your interest coupon, you default. It's classified as a default. You've broken that contract. So US 10-year treasuries are 3.75%. And I'm going to put a global coupon on 400 trillion of a 3% coupon. Now here's the kicker. That 400 trillion is actually 4 times the size of global GDP, which is your tax base, right? So if you have $400 trillion of debt and a $100 trillion global economy, and this debt has a coupon, and I just threw out a low coupon of 3%, that means your numerator is growing at 4 times your denominator, which is your tax base, 4 times an average coupon, 12%. 4 times 3, 12% annually. Is it likely, Jake, that global GDP will grow at 12% annually just to keep pace with the organic, not deficit spending, just organic growth of this numerator? You got a numerator growing at 12% and a denominator that's growing at less than 10%. What does that mean? That the debt burden is going to continue to grow faster than your tax base. So you say to me, Foss, go and raise the tax rate. And I'll say they've done that. And every time they do that, tax revenue actually declines because more of the economy goes underground. So there's a law of diminishing marginal returns on your tax base. Countries like the USA are running annual deficits of 8% of their GDP. Not only are they not keeping pace if everything was fixed right now, they're increasing their debt burden by 8% of GDP to fund all these programs they can't otherwise pay for. Which means fiat currency is the error term. They need to continue to print fiat money to pay back the debt in the numerator. And guess what? In a debt spiral, debt never matures. It needs to roll over. So this concept that, 10-year treasuries just matured, they didn't mature. They issued new 10-year treasuries to pay for the old 10-year treasuries, plus they got to issue more. Well, eventually the only buyer is the central banks. They can print money to make sure this debt spiral doesn't unravel. Hope that's pretty clear. I like to call it 11th grade math. So that's why I'm 100% certain that fiat money will continue to debase. And it's not a hard call, Jake. It has debased for the last 100 years as well. So it'll just continue the trend. But the math of it is, it will accelerate because of these twin deficits. The twin deficits are typically called your fiscal deficit and your current account deficit. I don't need to get into the economics of it, but 100% certain fiat money will continue to debase. The 60-40 portfolio. I traded bonds my entire life. I called at under 1% US 10 years. I wrote a paper. It's the basis of me entering into the Bitcoin community. Why would you ever own sovereign debt at these rates? Oh, all the experts were out there. Don't worry, rates can go negative. Yeah, I know mathematically they can, but I also know things should have blown up, and they certainly did. In the UK, liability-driven investing caused pension plans to fail because they levered bond returns to turn a 2% return. They levered it 3 times to turn a 2% return into a 6% return. And guess what? All of a sudden, they were down 40%. So picking up nickels in front of a steamroller is never a smart thing. But what has now happened is people are not taking into account the fiat debasement. So you're still highly likely to get your US Treasury debt repaid in 10 years if you lend to them today at 3.75%. But the value of the $100 you invest today is going to be worth far less in 10 years than it is today, right? That's the fiat debasement reality. Even though you got 3.75% paid semi-annually over the next 10 years, plus you get your $100 back, but it's in new money that's less valuable than the old money. That's the mathematics of bonds. There's no subjectivity to it. Again, bonds are a fixed coupon, a fixed income instrument. That's the only return you're getting. It's not like you have options on the value of Australia or some sort of optionality in beating the New Zealand All Blacks in a rugby game. That's not part of this contract. Like, you can set contracts like that other ways, but it ain't part of a fixed income contract. And that's why fixed income is mathematics. And that's why it gives me a high degree of confidence that if you own a 60-40 portfolio, you need to take part of your 40% that's allocated to bonds and you need to put it in Bitcoin. Full stop. I am not arguing to take money out of gold to put into Bitcoin. No, I'm not arguing to take money out of real estate to put into Bitcoin. I am arguing to take money out of fixed income and put it into Bitcoin. And it's for that reason that I wrote my paper titled, Why Every Fixed Income Portfolio Manager in the World Needs to Own Bitcoin as Portfolio Insurance. I calculate the value of Bitcoin using credit default swaps and all that exciting stuff. And you could believe in my model or not. That's my model. But the reality is fiat debasement, again, is a certainty. And I don't care if it's 130% of GDP. It's a different world. And the USA is the only global fiat that really, really, really matters. And I argue that Bitcoin can help the USA avoid default as well if they start putting Bitcoin on the balance sheet of the US Treasury. But that's a topic of another discussion.